Now let's start making our own backdoor. You can call also a reverse shell. So what happens is basically nowadays there is more advanced antivirus available in the market which has the database updated daily. So it is very hard for the attacker to just attack to the victim computer directly. So you cannot simply put any malware that is directly to the victim without passing through that antivirus. So antivirus will detect every bit of malicious code that is directly sent to the victim. So nowadays it is very hard to send directly the malicious code to the victim, but what you can do is simply you can make a reverse shell which will just make victim computer to connect to the attacker rather than attacker going for the connection to the victim. So that is the important factor of the reverse shell, because now attacker is not going to communicate directly with the victim, rather than they will listen for the connection, and when the victim will get communicated through that port, then attacker will just come to that port and basically there will be the connection and attacker can run any type of command on the victim computer. So we'll just make a reverse shell in this lecture and we'll just modify that reverse shell to the more advanced reverse shell in the upcoming lecture. But for now you can see in this picture that the attacker is just waiting the connection, or basically it is listening for the connection, and the victim computer will run that payload, and when that payload is executed it will just send a message, or basically it will just send the response to that port which the attacker is listening. So in that way there will be the connection, and also the firewall that is established on this victim computer won't get suspicious about this activity, because this attacker is not going to attack to the victim directly, rather than victim is going through the firewall to the attacker. That means there will be the connection and antivirus won't get suspicious about this activity, and attacker can get this idea working on these victims more easily than before. So let's make our reverse shell in this lecture. So first of all, you can see here that I have these two computers, that is the Kali Linux. So this Kali Linux will be our server and this window will be our listener, or basically this will be our client. So first of all, we'll just start with this Kali Linux. So you can see that if I just open the terminal and if I just type ipconfig, it has been configured with this WLAN interface. So now this server is only going to listen for some port. It is not going to run any Python code for now. We'll also make the Python listener code in the upcoming lecture, but for now it will only listen for the some port. We'll just execute that in the next minute, but for now let's go to this window machine, which is obviously the client. And here first of all I have downloaded my Python version over here. If I just search for ideally, and you could see the Python version. If I just open that ideally, let me just wait for a moment, maybe it is not executing. Let me type cmd, and if I just type Python over here, you could see the latest version of Python over here. So this is the way, or basically I have just configured the Python in this Windows machine too. So the editor that we are going to use over here is Notepad++. You can also use Eagle or PyCharm. So I am going to use Notepad++. So first, the module that we are going to use in order to make the backdoor is socket module. So let's learn about this socket module at first. So this socket module is basically going to get a communication between the two PC. So this is going to give the connection between this window machine and the machine that is our server, which is obviously the Kali Linux. So this socket is basically what we call the standard module in order to have the communication between the loopback interfaces, or basically it will have the communication between the interfaces based on the port. So let me show you something that is with let me say first program that we are going to write is between the client and the server. So let me just go over here maybe and show you this picture over here. So you could see there is a bunch of API call to this server through this socket. So first of all, you can have this socket function on that socket module. You will have then bind, you will have the listen and accept, and after that client will also have the socket, client will have the connection. So basically what happens is server will have this layer that is hidden upper side. So client will have this connection, that is socket through the socket, because the client is one which will get the privilege to have the communication with the server. So you could see it has established a three-way handshake with the client with the server basically. So the method that we are going to use is this socket and the connect method to just call this basically this socket API. So let's see how this works, and let me show you what we are going to do line by line. So we are just importing the socket module, so first of all, and now let me just make this connection variable which will have this socket object. So here what I am gonna do is I'm going to call that socket layer. So that is going to have the two parameter here. So first parameter is going to be, let me just type this first. So what is this parameter? So this parameter is very important parameter, and this specify the address family. So you see here this socket module, or basically this socket method of this socket API call will specify the address family and the socket type. So you could see this is the socket family and this is the type. So this is type and this is the internet address family for IPv4. So this is to specify only the address family, that is internet protocol of version 4. So next argument over here will be the important argument, and let me write first. So it will be also from this socket address family, and it will be sock stream. Let me first close this one. And what happened is here, that is this is also the another argument which is the socket type for TCP connection, and TCP is the protocol that will just have that will be used to transport our message in the network. So you could see we have the two argument right over here. One is specifying the IPv4 family, and another is a socket type, which is this sock stream is the socket type for TCP, and TCP is the transport protocol that will just transport our messages between the network. So that means we have now connection between this client and the server. So let's go down now. And the first step is just having this connection. Now we have to use that connect method, and that is done through this connection object, and let's call this connect method now. So this connect method will take a tuple, and in this tuple the first thing will be the IP. So this will be the IP of the client, and the IP that I'm going to connect is the IP of the server. So let me just confirm this, if this is the IP of the server or not. So if I have to confirm here, I'll just type ifconfig, and you could see this is the IP address of this server. So let's go back over here. So next thing to this tuple will be the port where this will listen. So basically Kali Linux should have listened to some port, and basically this client will try to communicate, or basically try to connect through this socket package to that port. So let's specify that port. So let me say 4444, or you can also simply go to 8080, which is used by the web server. Now we have connected to this port, or maybe let me just say 4444, because I think 8080 will be used by the web server. So let's see that we have done these two steps. A simple step is done over here. So first of all, we just use this socket manager to just specify that we are just addressing the address family, and this is for the TCP communication. We are just connecting back to this IP address and the port. So let's go back to the server now, that is our Kali machine, and let's establish this connection. So before running this, we have to listen for this port. So let's go over here. Let me just clear first. So what am I going to do over here is, let me just zoom this a little bit. And now First of all, we have to make use of this NC application in order to listen this. So this VB is the argument for verbose, so it will just try to listen, and we have to now listen. So this L is for the listen argument in the port. I have to give this P argument for the port, and this port should be same as we just passed over here, that is 4444. Let's go back and let's hit enter. Then it is saying listening on any means on this IP address, and basically this is saying 4444. That means it is just specifying the port which it is listening for any connection, incoming connection. So let's go back to our window machine, and now we have made this backdoor. Let me save this backdoor, and I have saved this backdoor right here in the desktop. So what am I going to do next is I'm going to just run this backdoor. So in order to run, I have to first navigate to desktop, and if I see the directories, that is right over here, that is saying backdoor. So in order to run any Python file, you'll simply type Python and backdoor. I'll say backdoor.py. let's hit enter. Let's go over here in this Kali machine, and you will see that it has some messages showing us that connect to, and this is our host, from unknown. So it is unknown for now, but it has given us some server or some client that is connected to this server. So you could clearly see we have now the hook between these two machines, which is done by simply with this Python socket module. So we have made successfully a connection between two PC. Now in the next lecture, we'll see how we can just execute some of the important commands in this client machine through the server, and we'll also see about the packaging, because if you see here, if you want to run this backdoor on the client, it is so suspicious that, because first of all it has to have the Python installed, which is not compulsory because everybody doesn't have Python on their machine, and the next one is it is simply a Python file. So we have to package in a such way that the client won't get suspicious, and it will be cross-platform. That means it will be executed on any machine. It will be executed in Linux, Windows and Mac OS X. So that will be covered in the upcoming lecture. Whole series of the lecture will be covered about the packaging stuff and how to make your backdoor non-detectable by the antiviruses. So see you in the next one.